if you'd like to come on up. Mike, this is the third time speaking to the Redlands Tea Party. He's a former Marine, if you haven't guessed by the time he talks. He is the president of California TEAPAC. Now, the significance of having Mike here, as well as the other two speakers, Judy Neal and Gina Gleason, is they're going to talk about ways how we can use the ballot initiative to go on the offense. Don't want to steal their thunder, but Mike has the business acumen and the infrastructure while we supply the ground troops. Why this is significant is we have the chance to go on the offense. As a conservative, I am so tired of playing defense in this state. So many conservatives say, hey, you know what? If you're still here, you haven't moved to Texas yet, okay? So this is our chance to go on the offense. Last thing, talk is cheap. So I want to present Mike Alexander with a $20 check to TEAPAC California to help on the signature initiative. Not a rich guy, my liberal wife. No, hell hath no fury like a liberal wife who finds the checkbook, okay? So I want to give him $20. Last thing, I'm going to be circulating through the audience collecting information for Mike. Mike Alexander, welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Well, I do appreciate the $20. That's a sad story. A liberal wife. Oh my God. Yeah, that's why he's combat trained, I guess. It's a great pleasure to be here again, and I know that you folks realize what incredible leadership that you have in John and Greg and everybody else here. The Redlands Tea Party organization is one of the larger Tea Party organizations in the state, and really one of the very, very best organized. No organization is more active than this one, and I say that from personal knowledge. I've been asked to come here tonight to speak to you again about our plan at TEAPAC. How many of you this is the first time you've had a chance to hear me speak about my subject? Please raise your hand. Okay, so it's maybe about 20% here. So I won't spend too much time on the history here. I am the president and one of the founders of TEAPAC, which is the largest and best organized Tea Party in Los Angeles County. I'm also the president and one of the founders of the California Tax Limitation Committee, with an obvious focus on tax. When we started in the Tea Party movement here, almost 6 years ago, we were like so many people in this country. We were absolutely shocked by what had happened with the first TARP investigation. Oh, thank you, Judy. Appreciate it, dear. We were shocked by what had happened, and we were even more shocked by what we saw coming, a European tyrant type known as Barack Obama. In fact, I think the most significant accomplishment that Barack Obama can claim is his almost single-handed responsibility for the American Tea Party movement. Yeah. He can look out proudly and say, you didn't do that, I did that. About the only thing he did. And that's where we are in this country. Now, we spent several years involved in the candidate process. And by 2012, there were a couple of things that became very clear to us. Number one, that in the state of California, we were not going to change things by electing Republicans because of the effects, the negative effect of the gerrymandering, the legislative reapportionment that had happened in 2010. We were going to be, if we were trying to work through the Republican Party, the normal electoral process, we were not going to accomplish anything, and we haven't. And if there's anybody here, is our representative here, what's the gentleman's name? Okay, well, at any rate, your top priority, and the only thing that you people should be doing in Sacramento right now is working on the reapportionment that's coming in 2020. The calendar is a cruel and inevitable thing. The reason why we're having problems in this state is because we lost the reapportionment battle here in Southern California. In the last go around, it was a last minute deal. And so may I respectfully submit that we don't need feel-good resolutions. We don't need anything except working on that. That's where we're screwing up. Did you see anything on that at the California Republican Party convention? I wasn't there. I was doing something productive. I was drinking in New Orleans, right? With other people who knew what they were doing, drinking in New Orleans. In any event, that should be our top priority. That's where we're losing. So that was the one thing that I learned on November 12th to November 5th, 6th of 2012. But the other thing that I woke up and realized was Proposition 32. And I know most of you will remember Proposition 32 as an initiative which was basically campaign finance reform for unions. And don't you know that they didn't want anything to do with it? And so those people spent and fought heavily to defeat it. And so on the day after the election, when I was reading LA Pravda, that is Los Angeles Times, they were under the guise of objective reporting, they were crowing about the results that had been achieved, and they were bragging about how Proposition 32 had gone down to a terrible and ignominious defeat. And that those who had opposed Proposition 32, that is the unions, the Democrats, and the special interests, had spent overwhelmingly, they had spent $75 million to the $5 million that had been spent by the proponents. And I'd already heard from people what a terrible defeat it was, but when I saw those numbers, I looked at that 5 million versus 75 million, and instead of seeing a terrible defeat, I saw those numbers in an entirely different way. When you spend $5 million and make the other guy spend $75 million, that's what we Marines call combat efficiency. Right. Now, there's a truth in that. And that truth is not realized. Now, these poor folks that were up here with relatives and others who were killed by illegal aliens, including some peace officers. You remember those two guys up there in Sacramento County or nearby Placer County who were killed? And it's an awful and terrible thing to lose anybody for any reason. But stop to think about what happened. If you look at it from a political perspective, those guys weren't murdered, they committed suicide. And why do I say that? Because their unions support candidates routinely who support a Democrat and a Republican agenda that fosters more illegal immigration. Turns those people out onto the streets, refuses to arrest them, refuses to incarcerate them, suspends the rule of law from them, enforces it cruelly against us, and then they go out and surprise, surprise, they kill officers when it looked like it might restrict their freedom. It is a form of political suicide, is it not? And that is what we're up against. Remember what I said the last time that we were here, is that we are really not up against an ideology in this country so much as we are up against an institution that operates under the guise of that ideology and advances its interests. That's all it does. And when you look at how this political apparatus is organized, it is heavily based at the bottom. And so when you look at political power in this country, you are inclined to focus on the presidency, on that moronic vice president of ours, on Hillary, on this circus that we call Washington or Sacramento. But in fact, they are at the top of the pyramid. And for those of you who got to hear me at the IE conference, conservative conference, we talked there about the pyramid of power. And the real source of power is at the basis, at the local level. Barack Obama, at the top of this political pyramid, exercises the power, but he does not possess that power. It is handed on to him through a series of political organizations and a flow of money that starts right at the local level. That's why, and I'm going to talk to you about our strategy, that's why there is no such thing as local or national. It is all a single integrated political apparatus that includes all of the Democrat Party, all of the unions, and a fair portion of Republicans and those people who profit from the expenditure of government. All right, that's what we're up against. It has nothing to do with party. And that's why we elect Republicans and they go right to Washington and ignore our will. And the purpose of the vote is merely to furnish the veneer of legitimacy to their illegitimate, unconstitutional behavior. And they do it all at our expense. And so when we look at this new kind of political apparatus, we can understand it in a very different way than we ever have. And we now understand that what we have here in the United States is very similar to what they had in Nazi Germany, very similar to what they have in communist, in the USSR, and still in large part today, even in communist China. And that is a fifth column that is indistinguishable from the government apparatus itself. You have political officers. It also behaves like any other economic organization. I was talking with somebody here today. We had a conversation. He used the word nonprofit. There is no such thing, repeat, no such thing economically as a nonprofit organization except that one which goes out of business and ceases to exist. All right? Nonprofit is a tax concept. It's not an economic concept. And if you look at these government operations, these so-called nonprofits, these charities and whatnot, they operate the same way any other business does. It designs itself to grow. It desires more revenue, more privilege. It's designed to support and advance the economic interests of those people who own and operate it. And when it comes to the local government, trust me, you're not in the circle of trust. You're not part of that equation. You don't own that city. The politicians who run it, the people who pick up big fat pensions and salaries run it, those are the people who profit. The people, the bond hustlers who are out there trying to sell bonds. You know, this fiasco. By the way, Wong, where are you? Great job in 5 minutes on City of Redlands. Fantastic presentation. That $9 million, this whole stupid train isn't designed to carry people. It's not designed to transport a damn thing except your money from your pocket to their pocket. All right? And believe me, I'm not trying to be clever here. I'm describing the reality. It's about getting money and larding their coffers. These environmental firms, they're all in on the racket. The bond firms, the guys that pick up big money for underwriting these bonds and selling them and indenturing you and your children and your grandchildren and really all these legal, illegal immigrants, whatever you want, label you want to attach to them, they're going to have to pay this monstrosity, monstrous bill itself. So what do we do? All right, I painted a fairly dark picture. You understand this, but I want you guys to understand that our enemy is at the local level. That's where they live. 1.8 million federal, state, and local government employees in this state. 1/3 of them feds, the other 2 state and local. This is where our enemy lives. This is where they operate. This is where they generate their dues. Our number one objective is to reduce the size of government. I don't think that we can manage its growth. I don't think that we can treat it, that we can put it in its box. I don't think we can deal with them at any level. We have to reduce it absolutely. And therefore, we want to get rid of taxes at every opportunity. I don't want, as somebody said here earlier, I don't know, it might have been the assemblyman, who suggested that we might be able to have a rational discussion with the Democrats in the state legislature about taxation of services. Really? Really? A rational discussion with those people? Impossible. It needs to be cut back. Period. It needs to be cut by half and 2/3. We've got to get somebody up here. I was talking with a gentleman here earlier, Randy. They have some people who are high on dope or something who want to form a new city up here called Rim City. Here, they have this proposal. The answer is no, because what is a city? A city is basically a pension business. Right? Now, why in the world would you want to get into the pension business when being in the pension business is what is bankrupting the state of California and bankrupting just about every other city in the state of California? Just take a look at San Bernardino. So, TEAPAC, we learned our lesson. We're focusing on using the local and statewide initiative process to do two things. One, to attack taxes at the local level and do something that nobody has ever done, actually make government smaller, period. And the only way to make government smaller, class, is to make government smaller. And if they're getting more money, government is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger, and that was the major failure of the Reagan administration. He raised more money and they outspent him. Government got larger because more revenues came, and our objective must be to reduce the amount, the blood flow to the cancer, right? Can we agree upon that? And we can use, as it happens, that the local initiative process. Now, Neil Cash and Carey, in the last election, the Republican Party in this state managed to go out and find the only Republican who would actually admit that he voted for Barack Obama in 2008. And he said, yeah, we're going to run him. There's our man. Now, the only decent thing, the only accidental good thing that the Republican Party has done in the last, 10, 20 years was to run this guy, because as a result, there were historically low voter turnout for governor, and as John Berry just pointed out, because the constitutional formula for a successful state initiative is 5% valid signatures from 5% of the number of people voted for governor in the last race, the voter turnout was less, it was about half of what it was the last time, and our new number, instead of 505,000, John, you said it's 369, I think it might be lower than that. But either way, it's roughly half, which means that our burden, the amount of expense, the amount of managerial effort that we must expend to qualify something for a statewide ballot has been cut in half. This is a brand new world, but at the local level, it also cut the required signatures in half. So in the city of South Pasadena, at one time here, we needed 525 valid signatures to qualify an initiative to take away the $3.6 million pork pot, right? Called the utility tax down there. Well, now that number has been cut to around 247. Well, as I always say these things, do you think that in the city of South Pasadena, you can find 247 permanently pissed off patriots? Right. So you get that. You can get a lot more than that. All you have to do is say tax. And here's our dirty secret. The taxes that we attack are the taxes the Democrats pay. Because believe me, Democrats rank and file Democrats hate taxes probably more than the average Republican. How you say? No, they are for taxes or not interested in opposing taxes that you pay, but you give them an opportunity to get rid of a tax that they pay and they vote for it. That's why they voted for Barack Obama in record numbers, because he promised not to tax them. So when we go into these cities, some of these cities actually refuse to put these initiatives on the ballot. We're going to be in litigation over that. So why do you think that these 5 city councilmen will sit up there like 5 Cheshire cats? Cat got their tongue, won't say a darn thing, and refuse to put a validly qualified initiative on the ballot. Why won't they? Because they know what I know, and that is that they can't trust their own party. They can't trust their own Democrats. Not the Republicans. Suburban Republicans are far more likely to vote for a utility tax than your average rank and file Democrat. Why? Well, because a lot of them can't afford taxes any more than the rest of us, and they don't want to pay them. They know if those taxes go on, they're gone. That's $3.6 million. Now, let's go to another. I love John Numbers drill. That's a really wonderful kind of a gimmick or shtick. It's wonderful. He pointed out, what the average pay is. I saw a recent survey. The average public employee in the greater Los Angeles area has his pay and benefits, or hers, is $117,000. Right? That's not the pension. That's not the net present value of the pension. That's just salary and benefits. Over $100,000. Now, you just say you get rid of going to a city. If you want to know what your body count is, how many casualties you're producing on the other side, it's very simple. Just take whatever the amount of tax is and divide it by 100,000. Right? And that's how many bureaucrats you get rid of. It's wonderful. So it's great. So you just say, hey, well, look, we got rid of 30. Then you take their average dues, which might be, you add that up, it might be $500 to $1,000 a year, depending upon whether a cop, librarian, fireman, or whatever. So now the enemy has that many fewer dollars in campaign dollars to work with. You're going to reduce the pension budget, and these people will spend lavishly to oppose you. So you get to add all that in. Hey, I'm loving these numbers. How about you? I'm going to give John some new numbers to work with. So we can come in here, we show a body count. Now, in the state of California, if we got rid of just $1.8 billion worth of annual utility taxes, well, you figure that, 1.8 divided, 18,000 bureaucrats you got rid of? Hey, that's a good day's work, right? Yeah. I love that. That's efficient. Plus, on top of it, they'll do it. Now, what's the whole purpose of this local tax exercise? Am I involved in the local area to save myself $250 or $300 a year in utility taxes? No. Many of us spill more booze than that every year. Yeah, that's just a small part of our bar tab. We're not in business for that. We're there to attack the Leviathan and to put it on defense. And because we could qualify one of these initiatives anytime we want on a tax, fee, charge, or assessment for 5%, we can keep them on. We lose it, we put it right back on. We lose it, we put it right back on. And as we work with you wonderful people here, and I was really impressed to see your 2 new guys out there, San Bernardino, and the other fellow, I didn't catch his name, but you guys are doing all the right things. As we bring our organizational skills to bear, we will be able to leverage this into statewide organization, and then we can attempt statewide initiatives that will be truly effective. One of my top things, what produces the most casualties? What is the nuclear bomb of the left? What is it that answers almost every single issue that was raised here tonight most passionately, and that is school choice? All right, why school choice? School choice, first of all, the Constitution, 40% of the budget. is guaranteed by constitutional amendment to go into the hands of our enemy. And then we put our children into the hands of the enemy. All of these illegal, anchor babies, whatever you go, anglitos, whatever you want to call them, those are people that we've got to teach to be Americans. We can't hope to do it as long as those children are in the hands of our enemy. So getting them out of the control of the state and of the teachers' unions, out from under the control of our enemy, is our first order of business. And you think that if you got a problem with co-ed bathrooms, why go down and argue with that teacher or that school principal or that log cabin administrator, whatever the hell it is that's running that place down there? You don't need to argue. Just take your kid and take your money and go down the street to a private school of your choice. And the day that happens, the day the school choice passes with our help, there's going to sign go up out in front of that school that you're having trouble with. It is going to say, no co-ed bathrooms here, enroll here. It is a mistake, a profound error to believe that you can manage anybody's business, much less the public so-called school, so-called system. Impossible. You can't even help a guy. If a guy makes a bad hamburger, why should we appoint a committee and give him more employees because he's having trouble? What do? No, we go down the street and we buy hamburger someplace else, and that guy's product is going to improve right away, or he'll go out of business. Either way, the market's better off. We know that. Why do we behave differently in government as if these people were somehow different? You can't change them. All you can do is take your money away from them. Every opportunity that you get. And all these other things are distractions. Trust me. They're all distractions because we go out, we elect Republicans, and who do we get? Boehner. I submit that these people are not the French Republicans. They are the Vichy Republicans. They are people, these are the French who are actively collaborating with the enemy to accomplish all this. Don't tell me it's not the case. We're entitled to rely upon the results. When will they fight? Reminds me of that old joke, for sale, one French infantry rifle, dropped once, never fired. That's who these people are. We have to go after the enemy right here. How much time do I have, or am I over? Okay, I'm still live. Okay, we're still going. So our goal, our plan is very simple. We will work on these local initiatives, and these are very powerful. You have slightly different signature gathering requirements to get rid of that choo-choo, Redlands, choo-choo, cuckoo, choo-choo, whatever the Wong called it. It's a great phrase, all right? So you have slightly, it's 10% of registration, but you can't force it, even if you're cutting back a prior initiative. You can revote these things. We are the people. We can expect these city governments to fight back against us and actually to sue us and take us to court. These people are not going to go home. Our job is just beginning, but if we go back at them, we will win. Talking about school choice again. Do you have any idea how much, if they spent $75 million to beat back Proposition 32, how much do you think that they will have to spend and be willing to spend to defend the home islands, called the control of the children in that budget? Answer, it'll approach $500 million. Now, do they have $500 million? Maybe once. Do you think that they'll have it again in 2020? No, Professor. Do you think they'll have it again in 2022? No. By that time, they're gonna be in that soup line begging for their Obama phone. They won't have any more money left. All right? That's how we deal with these people. Total offense, and I don't want to hear anything from anybody about being able to somehow reason with these people, or to be reasonable, or to somehow it's our job to make those cities run. They can't and won't. Do you know what the average Orange County Fire District fireman down there. Do you know what his average pay and benefits were? Not including the future value of his pension. $217,000. 212 in Orange County. This is repeated time after time after time. You have city clerks that make $100,000 and then they go on these pensions. Do you realize that when these people ride, how many people are in insurance or finance here? Raise your hand. Anybody know the word annuity? You try to buy yourself an annuity that pays that kind of amount of money, and then to your widow, and then to your fourth cousin and your dog. You try to buy a financial vehicle like that, and the present net value of the cost of that benefit is in the millions. We simply cannot afford to hire millionaires to get cats out of a tree. It's just not necessary, and all Republicans and almost all conservatives who are working in the city fall into the trap of saying, well, we've got to take care of our police and fire. That's it, baby. That's the game. Game, set, and match. They're the big eaters at the table. If we don't deal with our labor costs, we will never deal with it at all. That's a simple fact. We are bankrupt. I don't care what they say. We're done. CalPERS, CalSTRS, underfunded by hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're not experiencing a recovery in the United States, an economic recovery. They're just spending more money. So what is our attack, and why should we be enthusiastic? That's okay, good. It's better than a shotgun chambering around. All right, so I'll get off. Oh, Don Dix hooked me off of the stage last time. In 2 minutes or less, if we use aggressively and systematically the local and statewide initiative to attack taxes, we work together to build a statewide organization, we can introduce a series of initiatives that will attract people to us, and nothing will attract the black or the Latino or the poor or the single mother to our cause more than advocating a policy which will give her children, their children, the opportunities to succeed in America that we have and we need them to have if we're going to build the America of the future. And we will, because we are Americans. God bless America. Thanks for having me here tonight.